One of the fundamentals of a sound democracy is a free and democratic educational system with the doors to learning and knowledge open to all citizens. In the United States, the man most responsible for opening those doors was Horace Mann, known as the father of the common schools. He was born May 4th, 1796 in Franklin, Massachusetts. When he was 13, his father died, leaving young Horace and his two brothers and sisters to face a life of toil and privation. Although young Horace became familiar with books at an early age, he was able to go to school only 10 weeks out of the year.
I see you're not satisfied with the seat I gave you, Horace.
It's not that, sir. The roof's leaking again.
The rest of us are managing.
I don't like to sit in the wet, sir. If it weren't for all the leaks in the floor to let the water out, we'd all be swimming in here.
Then our school is not satisfactory to you. Is that it, Master Man?
Well, sir, I didn't...
Speak up, Horace. Tell the truth now, or I'll have you out for a flogging.
Well, sir...
Out with it.
All right, sir. I don't like this school. It's a dirty room. Wet in the rain, cold in the winter.
Is that all?
No, sir, that isn't all. We never learn anything here. All we do is memorize, memorize, memorize. We never find out what anything means.
Then why don't you drop out of school and go to a private academy, since you're so much above the rest of us?
We don't have enough money. I have to be content with this.
When he was 20, Horace Mann was able to achieve his first great ambition, enrollment in Brown University. There, his literary ability and wide range of knowledge made him an outstanding student.
So the president has written you personally, asking you to stay on here at Brown and teach.
Yes, I'm afraid I shall have to decline.
But you're always talking about education. I thought you were interested.
Well, of course I'm interested, but in a few days we'll be graduating, and I intend to read for the law.
Well, I don't blame you. Offering you $350 a year to teach here. Why, you could make as much as that in one law case alone.
Isn't the money so much, Ira? Though I've always been poor and can use it, I just think I can do more as a lawyer. As a lawyer, I could convince the people that count. I might consent to teach for a short while.
Congratulations, Horace, old man. I just heard the news from the Prexy's office. You've been made class valedictorian.
Good boy, Horace. They couldn't have chosen anyone else. You'll give them the speech that the graybeards will never forget.
What'll you say, Mr. Genius?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, come on, my fine feathered friend. You suspected it all along. You've been writing your speech for a week. Come on, a few words in advance.
A country can be no greater than its greatest educational institution. A society can be best developed through its schools. And if a nation is ever to abolish wars and oppressions, it will require the free institutions that can only grow from a broad and enlightened educational system.
In 1819, Horace Mann graduated from college at the head of his class. Although he remained at Brown to teach for a while, he soon resumed his law studies and was admitted to the Norfolk Bar in 1823. 7 years later, after attaining considerable success as a practicing lawyer, Mann married Charlotte Messer. But their happiness was short-lived, for she died only 2 years later. At the urging of friends, Mann left the scenes of his former happiness for Boston, where he was elected to the Massachusetts State Senate. He became president of that body, and his work on public charities, temperance, and religious liberty soon made him an outstanding figure.
You really stirred them up yesterday with your ideas on religious liberty, Horace. We haven't had such a row in months.
I'll always oppose legislation which intends to determine by law for all future time which religions are right and which are wrong.
The debate's on the railroads this afternoon. What stand will you take? As a distinguished lawyer, what's your position?
Well, I think you gentlemen know how I feel. We must be liberal with legislation which will help commerce at the moment. This new industrialism is changing the fabric of our society, revolutionizing our ways of living. If we help the railroads grow, our state will prosper.
I see they've begun work on the state hospital for the insane. Massachusetts should be proud of having the first asylum in the United States. And you too, men, for your work in its behalf.
It's only a beginning, gentlemen. Mr. Metcalf, you're the best authority in the state on legislative procedure. Now, I've been thinking, it's high time for a proper organization of the statutes on our books. They should all be indexed, condensed into one volume, so that all matter pertaining to one subject can easily be found and understood.
But it was not until 1837 that Horace Mann began to take a more active part in meeting the challenge facing the schools of the nation.
Ah, gentlemen, at last I've persuaded the hard-working Mr. Mann to come to one of our meetings.
Horace usually puts in a 15-hour day. You worked a miracle, Governor Everett.
I've learned through bitter experience that when politicians and educators meet in private, I'd better be around to watch things.
If anything is going to be done about the schools in this state, politicians and educators are going to have to get together. You've been away from the situation a long time, Horace. Frankly, things are worse.
Especially in Massachusetts. The schools here and throughout the United States have poor public support. Poor pupils, untrained teachers, poor buildings, and poor textbooks.
Aren't your educators making a mountain out of a molehill? It seems that most of us have managed to get an education.
You came from a wealthy family, Mr. Grace. You had a dozen schools to choose from.
You reformers. I say if the common people want schools, let them build them.
Mr. Grace, although I'm an outsider in this group, I've always tried to watch the educational system with a pretty close eye. It seems to me that an educated majority points to a democratic nation.
But why antagonize the people who count in this state? Look at this Board of Education you've just established. It costs us a lot of weak votes.
I've always considered schools, the most common schools, as the seedbeds of democracy. If we don't cultivate them, we'll raise a dwarfed and stunted crop. I myself got my early schooling under such sterile conditions.
Fine phrases, Mr. Mann. But how are you going to get taxes out of the uneducated people who aren't interested in schooling of any sort?
By proving to them that without education, you won't have freedom of speech, of opportunity. The smallest school in this country is the fountainhead of what is to be the future of this country. We boast that Boston is the cultural hub of the world. At the moment, that is a hollow phrase. Education, knowledge, is not the province of the few. God gave every individual a brain. And it is a solemn duty of every man in this room to support the idea that every man, no matter how low his birth or slim his pocketbook, be instructed how to use that brain.
Horace Mann's friends persuaded him to accept the secretaryship of Massachusetts' first Board of Education. He soon found himself so busy in the new job that he was unable to continue his law practice. And at the age of 41, Mann turned his back on his legal career to devote full time and energy to the school system of his state. In the following years, Horace Mann became known as the missionary of popular education, and he went directly to the people to present his gospel of better schools.
Instruction must, first of all, be made appetizing. Schools must have the facilities and apparatus to teach as many subjects as possible. Libraries should be a necessity. Well, gentlemen. You'll forgive my appearance. I worked right through dinner. And to what do I attribute the honor of your visit?
In case you've forgotten, Horace, you sent for us.
Oh, yes. I have a few ideas. Now, here, sit down. I'll send for some refreshments.
Your hospitality is so warm, I suspect that you're about to ask us to try to pass some more legislation on state education.
I have been thinking of some proposals that should be made into law.
Of course you understand we're meeting more and more opposition as we go along, Horace.
Of course, I expected it. That is why I'm concentrating first on educating the public. I'm sending out my new proposals to the public in many ways. To the town clerks of every village in the state. Well, this will start discussion. I'm also distributing thousands of pamphlets to the public in general. And my new magazine, the Common School Journal, will provoke thought.
What specific recommendations are you making now?
Well, first comes the construction of better schools. Then the pupils should be separated according to age and ability. Then we need better textbooks. We need better opportunities for the training of teachers.
Whoa, Mr. Mann. If you expect us to help you, you'll have to give us one thing at a time. Too many of the lawmakers will fight us every inch of the way.
All right, gentlemen, all right. Now, this, gentlemen, is a map of school districts. Instead of 4 or 5 badly built, poorly equipped schools in one town, why not consolidate them? One central school, housing equipment that all the students can use. These schools could be used by the older children, replacing academies which only the children of the wealthy can now use.
Thus, working through influential educators and politicians, Horace Mann got legislation passed which centralized and streamlined school administration. Not only did Mann lay the groundwork for the development of the high school in the United States, but he was one of the first educators to realize the necessity for schools for training teachers.
Believe me, Mr. Mann, this is the first time I've enjoyed a lecture so much that I'm taking the speaker home to dinner.
Mr. Dwight, when you take into consideration the recompense I get for my services, you'll understand why I'll enjoy a real dinner at the home of a wealthy man.
Seriously, Mr. Mann, I was much impressed by what you said this afternoon, that our schools can only be as good as our teachers. Special schools for training competent instructors.
I consider it the next most important move in the educational field. One trained teacher will be worth 10 untrained. The teachers are the backbone of any educational system. Yes, but getting the lawmakers of the state to impress the taxpayers that this is a necessity, that is a big problem.
You know, Mr. Mann, sometimes when you teach the brain of a wealthy man, you also touch his pocketbook.
You mean you're interested in helping in some way?
Precisely that. I've seen some of the opposition you've been up against, and I like a fighter. What if I offered you $10,000 to start the first school for teachers, contingent upon the fact that the state puts up the same amount? Would that be a decisive factor in your argument?
Oh, would it? How can I thank you, Mr. Dwight? Your offer means more than money. It will show some of the legislators that other people, or people of influence, have faith in such an idea. I must write some friends who will be interested in your offer this very evening.
Oh, no, Mr. Mann, not tonight. Don't forget you're my guest at dinner, and I'm paying well for the privilege.
By 1840, Horace Mann's efforts were rewarded by the establishment of the first 3 teachers' normal schools in Massachusetts. And in 1843, Mann was married again, this time to Mary Peabody of Boston. After they returned from a honeymoon in Europe, Mann found that the publication of his 7th annual report had created a storm of controversy.
They're really after you this time, Horace. And your old friend, the recorder, it thinks it has written your obituary.
I've already seen it, Sparks. All I can say at the moment is that newspaper editors should be made to go to school themselves. Now, irresponsible journalism does more to destroy the work of educational institutions than any one thing I know.
But the Reverend Smith, the businessmen, these are powerful opponents. I'd hate to see all the advancements you've made in our school system destroyed.
Sparks, I'm a very tired man, but I can truthfully tell you I'm not worried. The truth is on my side, and it's the greatest ally I know. Reverend Smith has misrepresented me. As you know, I have always encouraged the reading of Bible in classrooms. I've only objected to church-controlled education. The schools must stand on their own feet. As for the corporal punishment dispute, I'm firmly convinced that you can get the cooperation of any child in shorter time by appealing to his better nature.
I think you're taking the matter much too lightly. Then you intend to do nothing?
You know me better than that. I'm framing a reply. I'll answer each allegation that committee has made. I have infinite faith in the American public, provided they are given the facts.
With the wholehearted support of the general public, Mann won his last great victory in the educational field.
You know, Mary, I've been so busy building schoolhouses, I've never had time to build a home of my own.
Well, we have one now. And you no longer need roam the country like an Arab. And you should have had an extra room built for these books.
Oh, I'll manage to squeeze them all in the workroom.
Not workroom, Horace. Library. Your working days are over. I sometimes think it's only vanity, pretending that you're a young man again.
Don't tell me we're going to have visitors before we move in.
It is probably someone to see you, dear. I'll retire and be a good wife.
So, this is West Newton, eh? Not far enough away from Boston to hide from your old friends.
Or politicians like yourself, Mr. Everett. Don't tell me you drove through the mud to help me paint. Mary's certainly excited.
Before we go in,
Horace.
yes? Since John Quincy Adams died, we've been trying to find the proper man to take his place in the House of Representatives. Your friends have persuaded the governor to appoint you.
Impossible, Edward. I thank them anyway for the honor, but I'm a tired man.
We realize that. But if you accept the appointment to Adams' vacancy, it will get the entire anti-slavery faction off to a fresh fight. Didn't you once say that before a man can be educated, he must be free? Think of those words now.
And I meant them.
And you've never served in Washington, Horace. You'll get opportunities to talk about your blessed schools and education.
It means I'll have to resign as Secretary of the Board of Education. Mary won't like my going, of course, but then she won't have to worry about the books. I'll need them in Washington.
In June 1848, Horace Mann went to Washington, where for 5 years he fought the spread of slavery in the United States. But when Daniel Webster made his famous compromise speech, Mann alienated his own supporters in the Whig Party by refusing to sacrifice the principle that slavery was not compatible with a free nation. This attitude ended Mann's political career. So, in 1852, he accepted a new task as president of Antioch College in Yellow Springs, Ohio. In his commencement address to the students in June 1859, Mann once more stressed his belief in the promise of man, educated man, in building a world of harmony and tolerance.
And I beseech you to treasure up in your hearts these my parting words. Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity.
Horace Mann died August 2nd, 1859, but his work lives. His victory for humanity is the spread of public education in the United States. His efforts awaken citizens to the need for better teaching materials, trained teachers, and constructive, democratic methods of learning.